Hi. He also, he acknowledged, like, yeah, that one they have to get permission from higher up. Yeah. That line through the road bush, he said, just kind of down to do a lot better. But I think he will take care of those things out there that. I'm working on the work. I am. Yeah, I think about it. Has girlfriend. She was saying as you were walking out, how special this friendship is and what it means. What am I doing? Yeah. Well, and she was telling me that they kind of, they took an alley away from her, which is huge. Now we got oh, yes, that would be good. We'll have it up for puzzles. Okay. And these things go someplace.
Mm. Good.
Where's the thing?
In the garage.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, work request submitted. And David said as soon as they come in, they want him on it. Music to my ears. Good.
Hi, Barry.
Hi, Joan. I'm just working on stuff. Oh, it's 9 o'clock. Oh, okay.
Almost.
All right. I'm gonna go.
I'm an early bird.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to doing some stuff for a minute or two, and then I'll come back and say hi early.
No worries. I got stuff to do too.
Okay.
I just sent out the final draft to the entire coalition so they'd have it
Okay.
for the meeting.
Good.
Yeah.
I'll go take a look at that. And welcome, Jacob. I'll be back in a minute. And welcome, Jennifer. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I am back. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, early birds. So if you are available to chat, great. If you have work to do, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and do your work. And at 9:30, the meeting will officially start. But Nicole, oh, looks like you're going away. I was going to say, hi, who are you? Why are you here?
So I am with Catholic Charities. I'm in payroll, but I used to work at HOC. And so I still follow what the group is doing and come to the meetings, and I still field questions from people. So I like to know what's going on.
Okay. How are things at HOC? I guess what I'm wondering is, are folks there thinking about, I don't know if you know the answer to this, what's going to happen in a month or 2 or 3 as the world starts opening back up again? I know what you've been doing for about a year.
I really have no idea.
Okay. You're new at HOC, right? And you're not really in that department.
Yeah, I haven't been there in almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
I just do payroll and pay people.
Okay. I know that'll be a topic of discussion over the next couple months as to I know current shelters are operating for the last year under a method that will probably change as we go forward. So anyway, I'm curious how that'll work. Okay, you can go away. Thank you.
Oh, I just have to walk across my office and get envelopes to stuff checked
Okay.
this morning.
Okay, well, I'm going to chat with other folks who are here.
Hey, Barry.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you want to test? For the presentation, I'll need to share my screen.
All right, let me.
Do you want to make sure that works?
Yes. Let me see what I've got here. Okay, I've just clicked the button that basically says everyone who's on here can share. So, and normally I turn that off so that some rogue person won't come in, but why don't you give it a shot and see how it looks? Oh, there you go.
Is it working?
Yeah.
Yay.
There it is. Good.
Cool. Yay. Thanks.
By the way, I just glanced at that a minute ago when I went and checked my emails. And, Robert, who'll be chairing the meeting, I mean, he's sort of seen your emails, and I've sent a few emails to him about your group and what you're doing. And he knows that you're going to be up at the end. And, but if whatever he says, if he doesn't say enough at the end of the official meeting, I'm going to give you a huge thank you, congratulations. Heck of a lot of work has been done. So I'm going to encourage people who can stay around to stay around.
Yeah, the group has there's so many people who have been involved with this. And I just feel like we've got a team of like the dream team of superheroes of the coalition involved in this, because we've had, I don't know, I want to say we've had 4 or 5 subcommittee meetings, and we've had 3 big action group meetings. We may have had more than 4 or 5 subcommittee, maybe 6. So in the matter, you know, in the span of 3 weeks, we've had, you know, close to 10 meetings, I think.
Yeah. And you've accomplished a heck of a lot.
Well, it's certainly people that have experience and know how to work this Zoom to greatest effect, and also know the niche that we're serving. Know the, you know, I was amazed at how knowledgeable were many of the people leaning in to make that work.
Yeah. One person who's on this Zoom right now is Dale.
Dale.
Yay, Dale. Dale is awesome.
Yeah.
Good morning. I'm trying to get set up here.
Yeah, we're really sad because Jessie, who up until this week, it was so instrumental in doing so much. She's on vacation this week and she's out of town, and she's not going to be able to join us for this presentation, but she deserves so much credit. She's the one who got our stuff up on Google Docs. She facilitated a bunch of our meetings. She took notes for most of our meetings, and it was just like, she was awesome. I cannot speak highly enough about the people who have been involved in this. Dale and Dawn and Sherry DeBerg and
And if I think, hopefully I'll think of it when everyone's on here and I'm kind of, you know, towards when you guys are up, is I want to encourage other members of the coalition to do this. You know, the leadership team, we pretty much kind of monitor and keep the listserv going, and we get this Zoom once a month going. But beyond that, it kind of taps out us. So, but we know, as we have seen in the last month, there are a lot of folks in this coalition who have a lot of energy and can accomplish a lot as kind of like a subgroup or sub-team. So yeah, I'm going to encourage that.
I agree. We need to be encouraging that.
Yeah. So I want to say hi to some of the folks here. Jacob M at VA, do you want to say hi and who you are and why you're here? Don't have to. If you're just working, that's fine.
All right. Let's see here. Can you hear me? There we go.
I can. Hi.
All right. Hi. Jacob Mendoza, housing specialist with the VA. Basically, I'm part of the HUD-VASH program. I work with SSVF and SHA and trying to get veterans housed.
Good. That's great. So glad you're here.
Nice to meet you, Jacob.
Yeah. This is just
nice to meet you.
Yeah, early part is just saying hi, introductions, networking. Hey, Terry Thomas, do you want to say who you are, what you do, why you're here?
Hi, I'm with the Department of Social and Health Services, and I'm a BFIT program consultant for the program. And I'm here because just to let the community know and be a part of the action of the homeless is that we have programs, if we can get them educated and not just surviving, but being able to live. And we can do that through education and support and training to let them know that we can offer these programs to these folks. And sometimes if they qualify, if they're on basic food and things like that, maybe we can help them with rent. Maybe we can get them clothing. Maybe we can get them, started, get their GED, get them on the road to a 2-year degree, something that we are a part of this community and to lift up these folks.
Okay, great. I would suggest maybe later on to put your name and basically a little summary of what you said in the chat. I'm concerned if you put it in now, people zooming in after this won't see it. Yeah, Dale is nodding his head. So maybe when we're up closer to the start, put that in there. At the very end of the formal meeting, I'm going to open it up to anyone for like a brief announcement, which what you just said would be great. So yeah, welcome. There's just a couple of ladies.
Gary, I'm not sure, this is Terry. Were you talking to me?
I was, Terry.
Oh, I am so sorry. You kept going in and out, so I don't know what you were saying. I'm so sorry.
Sorry.
And I
I
didn't know if you'd gone on or.
What I'm going to suggest is what you just said would be great to be at the end of the formal meeting around 10:30 as an announcement, just so everyone can hear it. And also towards the beginning of the meeting, when most of the people are in the house, put your name in a little brief contact thing about what you do in the chat. You put it in now, people zooming in after this won't see it. So.
Oh, I will certainly do that, Barry.
Good.
Thank you.
That's what this kind of pre-meeting time and post-meeting time are about, kind of making those connections like what you just did. So welcome. Jennifer Wilcox, do you want to say hi and who you are and what you do? Oh, you're probably muted and busy and working, or maybe on the phone, or maybe getting a cup of coffee. So that's fine. Otis Smith, SSVF. You want to say hi?
Oh, yes, I would love to. Good morning. Can you see me? Yeah.
Yep.
My name is Otis Smith. I'm an outreach specialist with Goodwill Supportive Services for Veterans Families. I just got placed in Spokane to kind of cover Spokane County with some other folks. So I'm kind of starting to jump into these meetings and get my face out there a little bit so you know who I am.
Good.
And that's pretty much it for now.
Okay. Same comment that I made, if later on when there's more people in the house, just put your name and contact info, phone number, email, what you're doing in the chat. Often people are looking and saying, oh, he's that new guy, or yeah. So
awesome. Absolutely.
Okay. Dua, please teach me again how to pronounce your name.
Dua Rahima.
Dua Rahima. Okay, that's
yes.
I can do that. So
good morning. The last time I came, I was working with Aging and Long-Term Care of Eastern Washington, but I am now the statewide organizer for Washington Low Income Housing Alliance. And I live in Spokane, so I'm in Spokane. We got an East Side presence now. So I'm excited to work with everybody so we can, get some rap, groups, created over on this side to advocate on the behalf of, people who need safe and affordable housing, everyone. So I'm excited.
Okay.
So you will be seeing a lot more of me, and I will be meeting people. And when more people get on the chat, onto the group, I will put my information in. And if people are interested about how they can, especially those working service provider and those who know people who live in low income housing who has a voice and want to use their voice, to teach them how to become RAP, Action Project advocates. So yeah, I'm super excited.
Excellent. I go to their meetings often, and they're weekly, and they're like our meetings, but on steroids.
Turn right onto 100 Street
so,
East, 39th
so
Avenue
yeah.
Southeast. And so I don't know if you guys don't know, but Washington Low Income Housing Alliance, they do a lot of state legislative and national legislative advocacy.
Yeah, great group. So
and the Homeless Coalition on Ending Homelessness.
Yep. So again, my recommendation is when more people will show up, put your info in the chat. At the very end of the formal meeting, I'll ask any brief announcements, like 30 seconds to a minute. I would suggest you just repeat what you just said with a larger audience to hear you. Yeah. Great group. I'm glad they've got Eastern Washington presence. Let's see, who else can we say hi to? Jacob, Otis, Joan, Harry, Jennifer, Colin. Colin, do you want to say hi, what you do?
Yeah, I'm an AmeriCorps volunteer working towards affordable housing with the Spokane Alliance in West Central. So, yeah.
Good.
I'll put my contact info in the chat.
Great. Grades. Okay. What's your first name? I know you're the VA guy. Gordon. Gordon, are you there? Or you're just
yes,
oh,
yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Say hi and say what you do.
Okay, Gordon Graves, Community Employment Coordinator, Healthcare for Homeless Veterans, revolving door of 20 to 30 vets. Not all of them active, but I try to help them find jobs, connect to resources. So as things get to open up, I'm hoping to be very busy, especially when we can start doing face-to-face meetings, not only with the veterans, with the employers and the resource people. So that's working from home, doing what I can for now. And that's it.
Yeah. To repeat something I said earlier, as we open up more, as more people get vaccines, as we sort of open up, all of the services that have adapted to COVID over the last year have adapted marvelously, and we've been good at getting that info out. Our next challenge will be to get out the constantly changing new ways of, more face-to-face. So,
Can I just add something, Barry?
Sure.
So as you know, I'm on the Community Housing and Human Service Board with you, and I'm the VA representative. So I try to keep up on anything HUD-VASH, and so I can answer questions in regard to that involving veterans. And there's always things going on with the Housing and Human Services Board and the new roles and the new developments, and there's so much to do. So I'm going to continue to soak in that and hopefully bring stuff back to the table. There's been some positive things over the years, the 2 years that I've been appointed to that, and like Habitat for Humanity, how can it help a veteran to become a homeowner? And that process, they came to our agency and met, and I'm always looking to connect with people that attend our meetings once we get live again. I'm sure it'll expand. But anyway, I just want to throw that in. Thanks.
Thank you, Gordon. Amy J., can you tell us who you are and why you're here, what you're doing? Just introduce yourself if you wish. You may just be listening, which is fine. Mark W., probably Mark Ward, is that you? Do you want to say hi? No, Mark W. Betsy Wynn, do you want to say hi and what you do and what you're doing here?
Good morning. I'm a pastor from First Presbyterian Church downtown, and it's my first meeting, so I'm just here to listen this morning.
Good.
Thanks.
Welcome. Glad you're here. One of the things the coalition has tried to do over the last few months is do more outreach and connections with faith communities. We've had some pastors on the Zoom the last couple of months, and I'll tell you, a personal hope of mine is to get more churches and communities of faith to plug into this coalition, if they want to be sensitive to and aware of and helpful in helping with homelessness in the city. And I believe many of them do, but they're very disparate and kind of have their own little groups. I think it'd be really helpful if the faith communities had a more cohesive communication, and maybe this can be that. So Betsy, glad you're here. Let's see, somebody else on here. I see C Phone. Do you want to say hi and who you are and what you're doing here? No. Sherry Gadgetano, please tell us who you are and what you're doing.
So I'm Sherry, and I have Spokane Valley Community Advocates out here in the Spokane Valley. East of Spokane is our service area, and we're about ready to launch our member enrollment into our REACT program. REACT stands for Responsive Emergency Aid Communication Tree. So a good description is, think of the old church phone tree. When there was a crisis with a member, word went out, everybody came to help. Same thing, but it's going to cover the greater Spokane Valley, Colbert Mead down to Valley Ford. Okay. So now I just need members.
Great.
So I'm putting out an email later today with the member form. I can include it in the chat later here as well. But Kirsten from ESC 101 and EVCC is helping me try to find some kind of software, website, app of some kind that will allow me to do the mass text, mass email that we're trying to set up.
Good, good. Yeah, putting stuff out there on this, you got a lot more ears that might say, oh, I can help you with that.
Yeah. And I'm really hoping that it's not just going to be organizations that sign up. We're opening it up to individuals, families, religious organizations, healthcare clinics, government entities, anybody who wants to sign up. The form has been set up. So if you're an individual, you answer only certain questions. If you're an organization and representing them, there's additional, spots so that we can reach more. And that way, when a need comes through, we've got more resources to help them.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Sherry. You've taken on a big task, and I really appreciate what you're doing.
And I did chat with Ariel yesterday morning, and we're meeting for coffee on Monday.
Excellent.
Yes.
Let's see. Mark Henry, you want to say hi and why you're here? Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Mark Henry.
I'm Anna.
That's Anna, my wife. We've got Blessings Under the Bridge and Off-Broadway Lighthouse.
Okay.
Anna works at, go ahead.
I work at Spokane, and actually the reason why I wanted to pop in was, does anybody remember the name of the vet that volunteers when we do Spokane Homeless Connect?
I don't remember, but if you look on the Spokane Homeless Coalition website under resources there, I know there was something on there. I'm not sure it has her name, but if you email me or put something in the chat, I can follow up. I can look and I can find the name for you.
From our office, it's me. I do the table with the Homeless Connect.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
And I'm sorry, I don't know who you are.
That's Gordon Graves. Works
Gordon Graves.
Okay. Great.
Thank you.
Now, vet, you mean, now, do you mean vet as in veterans or vet as in veterinarian?
Veterinarian, yeah.
Veterinarian.
Veterinarian.
Oh,
Okay, never mind. Never mind, Gordon.
Yeah, it's not Gordon.
I knew
It's
that. I knew that's
Dr.
what
Laura Till.
Okay, I know there's Dr. Laura, but I thought there was another vet that's based, his practice is out in the valley off kind of Dishman Micah. I thought he was there too.
I didn't know him.
Well, if you put that in the chat and ask that question, maybe someone will see it. And at the very end of the meeting, when the official meeting ends, I'm going to ask if anyone has like a 30-second or 1-minute announcement or question. You can throw that out at that point and you get more ears on it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Bob Peeler, I saw you on your face over there a minute ago.
I can go to drive.
Bob, can you just say hi and tell us what you do, Miss? Tell us about you, Bob.
I do this stuff a long time. The vet on Micah is Animal Creatures. He's our vet too. So I do homeless outreach. I've done it for a couple of years.
Couple decades, Bob.
Okay, if you want to get technical.
Yeah.
I think it's 4 decades. So I'm old.
Can you post his information in the chat?
The veterinarian.
Yeah.
The veterinarian.
Bob will do that for us. Bob's that kind of guy. Okay, let's see. Who else do we want to meet here? Monica Highstand. You want to say hi? I see you. You're still there. You go.
Yes. So I work at Family Promise of Spokane, and I'm the community resource coordinator. So I'm the receptionist, and I also work on our prevention side, doing prevention services for families before they become homeless.
Okay. Now I think a lot of people know what Family Promise does, but I've seen some questions come through our email recently asking about help for families. Can you just say a little bit more about what help you could offer for families?
Yeah, so Family Promise of Spokane, we specifically help those that are caring for children under the age of 18 or pregnant. And we have an emergency shelter for families, which is our most well-known part of our program. And it's low barrier, so all that's needed is a family to be homeless, come in if we have room, and just pass the sex offender registry because we have children here. But other than that, we have no qualifications to stay here. It's just 2 adults per household. And then really, while guests are here, we provide kitchens, showers, laundry, a little bit of storage to keep the essentials, and then case management to work towards a permanent housing solution.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, I think I just asked Katie, our wonderful volunteer, who's going to close caption for us. And I'm going to try to make sure I put that on the screen. I'll work on that.
I'm still trying to access the closed captioning.
Oh, okay. I think I just invited you to be the typist.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, I can, there, I'm showing subtitles. Okay, at least I think I've pushed all the right buttons. I don't know what more buttons you need to push, but I think I've invited you and I think I've made it closed captioning available. If anybody else out there knows how to do this, Katie is willing to type.
It's not pulling up like it did last time. It's under the closed caption box. It says show subtitle, view full transcript, or subtitle settings.
Because
it popped up with an area for me to type in last time.
Assign participant. I'm going to try assigning you again, Katie.
Okay.
Katie, I'm trying to find you on my list. Where'd you go? There. Katie, there you are. It's Spotlight, make host, rename, remove. No, you have permission to type closed captions.
Now let me find the actual spot to type it.
Yeah, so if anybody out there knows how to tell a typist to push the right button to close caption, that would let Katie do that for us.
Wasn't that hard last time.
Well, good luck, keep looking. And
I'm guessing last time he probably changed the settings before he activated the meeting, so it was easier to access it.
no, maybe, although I'm not sure I was that competent last time, but it's possible.
Well, actually, he allowed me in during the session before we started, so that was when he was able to get everything set up.
Okay.
And the only thing I'm accessing really is the chat box.
Oh, yeah, no.
And that will work.
Yeah, I think I've done, let me try subtitle settings. Let me look at one more thing here. Yeah, that's all.
No,
Closed caption. Yeah, I think I've pushed all the right things, I think. So, Katie, if you can get it, great. If not, it's getting close to blast off time. I'm going to push the record button so I don't forget to do that.
So if we can't, I mean, I don't want to chat in the type box or in the chat box.
No, don't do that.
Here we go. Okay.
Do we have it? Let's
the
see.
Box just popped up. Yay!
Okay.
Oh, because 9:30, maybe, I don't know.
Hello, I see hello typed there.
That makes sense.
Oh, good. Okay, so for those of you that want closed captioning, we got it. And it'll be saved and it'll be posted. I'll send it out and post it on the our website along with the chat box, along with the video. as soon as our tech elves can get that done. Thank you, Robert Lipman, for being here. And do you want to take over? Or do you want me just to chit chat for a little bit?
Yep, I'm ready to go.
All right, take it away, Robert.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see all the people who are online right now. Welcome to the Spokane Homeless Coalition monthly meeting. My name is Robert Lippman. I serve as one of the leadership members, along with Barry here, and we have Julie as well, and Rob from the Gathering House. Which a quick update on that is that we are starting to have discussions about meeting in person. It's been like a full year since I've been able to see everyone. I've been growing out my hair. I've been growing out my beard. I mean, it's just been, I'm excited to see everyone again in person. And now if you are, still under a high risk category, we'll still be providing this virtually as well. But we're kind of still having those discussions about what month we're going to be kicking that off on. And so stay tuned for that, because I love seeing everyone in person. I love sharing information. I mean, that's the kind of the community, how our community works and operates. So thank you again so much for all the participation and feedback you guys put on the Google groups. That's awesome. Again, my name is Robert Lippman, one of the leadership. Also, I work with Providence Charity Clinic on 2nd and Brown. I provide medical support there on a walk-in basis, so no schedule needed. And so with that, we'll go ahead and start. So the coalition, basically, our mission is basically to provide planning opportunities, education to the community, and moments of advocacy. So at the end of this meeting, we'll also follow up with an action group that developed from the coalition. And it's been doing a really good job of really addressing some concerns in the community. So we'll go ahead and introduce them at the very end, specifically after we leave an open time for other organizations to give a feedback. But we want to leave that time open for that action group to continue on collaborating. I mean, that's basically what the coalition, the heartbeat of the coalition is to have these moments of advocacy and development action groups. It's awesome. So thank you. One thing about virtual etiquette, want to make sure everyone's microphone is muted. And Barry, if you can see anyone's microphone besides mine that isn't muted, go ahead and do that. There's just some background noise that comes up. And so each month, if you're new to the coalition, we have guest presenters, one who give us updates about what's going on in the community, but also we just have guest presenters. Like today, we'll have David Lewis from the city to kind of discuss some metrics that the city follows. And so with that, if you have any questions during these presentations, I'm going to do my best job to create a back and forth dialogue, basically, with each presenter that comes on. But if you have questions, please direct them in the chat box. And if I miss a question, I'm not trying to, I'll always direct the presenter to the chat box to answer questions. So please also keep me accountable too if I miss a question, you're really wanting it answered. So I'll do my best job to keep that up. Another portion is the Google groups. So if you're not a part of that email chain, go ahead and email Barry. He'll get you on that list of email. We have about 1,200 participants. So you'll be in a collective group of individuals who send out, if you're looking for a specific resource, or if you have a patient or client you're working with and needing some guidance in where to go and where to access some services, this is a good opportunity and a good Google group chain to be a part of, because we definitely try to resolve those issues when they come up through that chain. So please, if you want to be added to that, please reach out to Barry. Again, those are That email chain is used to dispense information, encourage, not criticize, and we use it as a platform basically for advocating for who we're working with, or to share organizational changes and information that come up. So please honor that for us as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and start us with a reflection. At Providence Medical Group, we start most meetings off with reflections, and then we'll jump into today's presenters. So this one is called the reflection of life. A reflection of life. If you're always looking for fault, that's what you will find. If you're always looking for fault, that's what you'll find. And you'll never have peace of mind. If you're always looking for the bad, you'll never see the good. If you are always looking for the bad, you'll never see the good. Surely must be clearly understood. Don't look for the shadow, and the sun you will see. Do not look for the shadow, and the sun you will see. And a better human being you will surely be. So I wanted to start off with this to kind of, as we jump into this open mic time. I know a lot of times it gets frustrating. It just seems like we're can be beating our head sometimes against the system wall and wanting to make changes and always focusing on how things aren't working. Well, within this meeting, we'd like to take time to recognize moments of collaboration, moments where we have been able to work together to mend all these different fragmented systems that we operate in. So I want to go ahead and leave the virtual microphone open. We have 79 participants right now. And if you are so brave, I know a lot of people get anxiety and have a hard time sharing moments of collaboration during this time. But I want us to take some time to focus on the good and focus on what's been working. How have we been collaborating with each other? So I'll go ahead and leave it open for about 3 or 4 if you're feeling so brave to take over the virtual mic.
This is Jennifer Wilcox. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Jennifer.
Okay, I'm a community advocate in general and a veteran advocate. I'm a veteran with some lived experience with homelessness. And so anyway, I've been following the Spokane Homeless Coalition for several years. I'm on the single subcommittee at COC. What I have noticed with the Spokane Homeless Coalition in terms of collaboration is a significant increase in sharing tangible resources and also over the email. It's more of a venue of helping folks out instead of expressing personal opinions. We've had some flare-ups on that, but I think it's really great to see an increase in collaboration and focus on towards where we're heading. So that's my input. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Yes, it's definitely, we love to hear those moments of collaboration. Are there any more?
Talk and type at the same time. Can I talk and type at the same time? I'm Katie and I'm with Revive, and I can't even spell Revive, good grief. And I've been working with people who have been, this is really, really hard. I've been working with people who have been approved for HEN. And this is great, but I've struggled to find places that, it's not that they don't accept HEN, their amounts for renting is not within HEN's guidelines, which is frustrating. So sending it out on the email was a really good way to post that out, and I got some good feedback, but I also got but I also got a whole bunch of people who said, please let me know what you find out, because I'm struggling too. And that made me feel like it wasn't just me, that we were all in this together, that we're all working together. So in even that, I've started a little thing of when I get information, I'm shipping information to all the people who've asked it. So
definitely, yeah, you're definitely, Katie, thank you for sharing. You're definitely not alone, because we all come up across certain barriers within the system, and we basically become professional system hoppers. We jump from system to system, trying to figure out loopholes and how to get through there and to find immediate resources that can help out. So yeah, you're definitely not alone in that, for sure.
Robert, I'd suggest Michael Larson from GU share now, because he's got a real good feel-good story of great collaborative work for GU students.
Definitely.
Yeah, hi everybody, my name's Michael. I'm a senior at Gonzaga and just wanted to give you all an update. I spoke last month about Humanizing Spokane. We're a student-led group producing a documentary and planning on April 24th to push for very specific policy demands around tenant protections and also getting rid of single-family zoning, which would help build more affordable housing all across Spokane. And so just wanted to give an update. Yesterday, we actually had our first showing at Gonzaga and had about 150 people show up, about 150, or actually 150 on Zoom, and then around 70 people in person on Gonzaga's campus. And we actually have a showing tomorrow at Eastern Washington University. And then, that's actually tonight at 7 with Eastern's campus. And then we're going fully public with the film online next Tuesday at 7 p.m. And our website, I think Barry just posted it, is humanizingspokane.com if you want to learn more. And we're going to need a lot of help.
When are you going fully public again?
April 6th, which is next Tuesday at 7 p.m. And we're going to need a lot of help to distribute the film, because it very much, after you watch it, there's very tangible action items for people to do and to email the city council and to show up at the march as well. And so things are going really well, and the film turned out really incredible. Ben Stucker is actually in it, as well as Rick Clark and a couple other community members, also Maurice Smith. And it's just very well produced. We had an incredible team to work with. And I think one thing in terms of collaboration, which is a roadblock that we're running into right now, is we're trying to secure a permit with the city to approve the march for downtown. But we're finding our barrier and our roadblock is finding a corporate sponsor that can help with the insurance cost, or because you need, I think, a $1 million insurance coverage at the bottom of the permit to get it approved. So we're working with Gonzaga, but we're struggling to find a way to have them approve it. So we're thinking of partnering with one of the nonprofits downtown, or someone who would be willing to offer that march sort of insurance that we need. So I'm going to list my email in the chat, and it would be super helpful if anybody knows how we could go about doing that. But yeah, the movement Humanizing Spokane has started, and I'm sure that you all will be hopefully hearing a lot more about it pretty soon. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. And good job for putting that all together. That is great. We'll look forward to your contact information there in the chat box. And then anyone who wants to reach out to him, please do. Anyone else?
I just have something to say, if that works. For the gentleman looking for the insurance policy for the march, if he could reach out to Jules Helping Hands, we have that insurance policy already in place.
Definitely, we can do that.
There you go. Collaboration at its finest. Thank you, everyone, for participating in that. We'll go ahead and move on into our update time. So is Ben, are you on the line from the COC?
I'm here.
You're here. Perfect. Ben, you want to give us an update as far as last time when we spoke on our last COC board meeting, kind of some of the agenda topics that are coming down the line and maybe some things that we voted on?
Well, let's just kind of, I want to try to involve everybody in the work because this is really, I'll stop. My name is Ben Stuckert. I'm the executive director of the Low Income Housing Consortium, and I'm also the chair of the board of the Continuum of Care. The Continuum of Care is the board mandated to handle all the HUD dollars that flow through Spokane County. It's about $4 million. The Continuum of Care funds part of the work that David does. He's going to be giving you a presentation on the cmis system, which tracks all of the providers in town, and you'll see the great work that David does down at the city for the city and the county and the whole region. We fund the coordinated entry system, part of the rapid rehousing program, some transitional housing in town, and some supportive housing in town. So that's really what it does. The Continuum of Care is also really in charge of the 5-year plan to end homelessness. And then our big role right now is we have work groups that are meeting monthly. And my goal today was just to tell you what the work groups are and invite you to participate, because that's where the practitioners that are out in the field are really digging in and working and using that data and trying to come up with new innovative ways to address the issues in our community. And there's 5 work groups. That's the singles work group, the families work group, the youth work group, the diversion work group, and the veterans work group. And those are where practitioners are meeting every single month and working. And what they're using is the data that David produces, and he can come up with a list, so a by name list of all of the chronic homelessness that maybe are veterans. And then the veterans subcommittee and work group of the COC meets, and they take those one by one and case manage those individuals to try to get them services. So a real way to be involved, and I'm saying this is very involved. The Homeless Coalition and this, the Google group is amazing and the work that's being done. But if you'd like to be involved at the COC level, one of the ways is those work groups. And I don't know, Barry, if you can put my email address, which is benstuckert@gmail.com. And if you email me, I will get you in touch of the lead of the co-chairs of those work groups and put you in touch so you can see if you can attend those meetings. But that's where the real work is being done. The COC itself is a group of 26 different sectors in our community, representing everything from K-12 to the Workforce Development Council to behavioral health to residential landlords. And they're making the bigger decisions, but the actual work is being done at the work group level. And just to point out one of the problems like that the big board dealt with last month is the rapid rehousing dollars. So if we think about rapid rehousing, agencies are trying to work when somebody is homeless and get them into housing right away, but it takes them working with private landlords that may take first and last month's rent or take vouchers. But when the market on market rate and low income housing is so tight, there's no housing available for rapid rehousing. So Catholic Charities was not able to use $200,000 of the HUD dollars this year for rapid rehousing because there's zero housing available. So we switched that over to work with the programs with VOA. So from Catholic Charities, the money got switched over to VOA. Our other big, so that just points out a huge problem in the system when the market is so hot on market rate housing. And that's what Michael was saying is one of the goals of the Humanizing Spokane is to end single family zoning. And if we think about it, it's all tied together. We can't think of homelessness as something that's just impacted by not enough shelters or not enough low income housing, but it's also that market rate housing piece. And we need to think of our housing system as this entire thing that affects, because a lack of market rate housing also affects our ability to rapid rehouse people that are homeless on our streets. So it's all tied together, and we need to make sure we're not stuck in our silos and just advocating for tenant reforms or just advocating for more low-income housing, but we also need to advocate for ways that our society is really messing up our housing market on all levels. And so I think that's just really important, and Humanizing Spokane is really pointing that out with their solutions that they're offering. Other issues the COC has come up against, there's no central housing, low-income housing availability list. If you're looking for housing and say you're at risk of losing your low-income housing, or you've fallen into the realm where you qualify, there is no central list. We're working hard with agencies that have figured that out to try to come up with that central list. And then I'll quit there. But if you want to get involved at the subcommittee level of the COC, email me. It's in the chat. And with that, I'll be quiet. And I appreciate you giving me time every month, because I think it's really important that these formal systems are also interacting with community groups like the Homeless Coalition, because as I can see every single day, this is where the actual work is being done.
Yes. Thank you so much for that reflection, Ben. That's helpful. And let's see, I don't see any questions in there for Ben. So we'll go ahead and let's see, move on here to the Spokane Regional Health District. Thank you, Ben. Kylie, are you?
I'm here.
Kylie?
Can you guys can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect. Hi everybody. I have today's update is mostly on vaccines and outbreaks in the shelters. So far, the health district's vaccination teams have vaccinated 471 people who are accessing shelter services, as well as staff in the shelters. 188 of those have been with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And I actually did the math today, and of those 471 people, only 45 are running a little bit late on their second dose. And so I think that is helpful to me. And I think it's a little bit of an evidence of that the vaccine clinics are going pretty well, and we are hoping to continue doing those. Recently, we added food sites to our route of vaccine clinics, and that's been pretty great too, just to get more and more people access to the vaccine. We are also introducing a new program looking for peer advocates of the vaccine, and we're going to unroll that in the next couple of weeks, where shelters will identify community members who are willing to be peer champions of the COVID-19 vaccine. There's going to be a training on information about the vaccine, and we will be giving those community members the tools to advocate within their community at the shelters and encourage people to get vaccinated. I'd like to share some kudos. We have 4 shelters that recently ended their outbreaks, and that means that they had 28 days after an outbreak with no new cases. And so sometimes when there's a lot of people coming in and out of the shelters, that's a pretty hard lift to prevent the spread and to keep those cases essentially non-existent for those 28 days. So Jules Helping Hands ended their outbreak, The Way Out, UGM Men's, and Canon all recently ended their outbreaks. So congratulations to them. We still have 4 outbreaks that are going on right now. Generally, I think all of them are keeping numbers pretty small. So we have House of Charity, Hope House, Truth Ministries, and Open Doors. And those are all with a handful, if that, cases a week. And so thank you to all the providers and staff at the shelters who are working really hard to keep those numbers low. And one other thing that's just helpful, I think, for the general community is that as of March 31st, so yesterday, the tiers for people that qualify for the vaccines in the community have opened. And so right now it's people who are 16 and older with 2 comorbidities, everybody 60 and older, staff who work in congregate settings or high-risk congregate settings, people who are 16 and older who are pregnant or either have a disability that puts them at risk for COVID, 50 and older in a multi-generational household, and then like the medical workers who were the 1A stage. So people are like, the phases are quickly opening and more people will qualify. And so just put it out there that if you're interested in getting the vaccine, look for an appointment and get it. So thank you, everybody.
Nice. Kylie, is there, now as far as is the primary vaccine that's going to be utilized moving forward, is that going to be Johnson & Johnson?
Yeah, so we at the health district, our allocation of the Johnson & Johnson, we prioritized it for shelters and at the jail. And so it's been really helpful so far. I think we've had a lot of people just anecdotally that were waiting for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and sharing that it's a single dose has really encouraged people to just overcome their fear of needles or their hesitancy about getting the vaccine. And we've had a lot of success with it. So I'm glad we have it.
And then lastly, access point. What time of day, what shelters is this available to our community members?
Yeah, so we do weekly calls that the city hosts with shelter providers, and I think almost everyone is filled out. I did like a little Google form where providers could recommend times that we come, and so we have all days of the week, different times, and so we're trying to make it so our clinics are at the times when the most people are at the shelters, but also just rotating and all over so we can catch people who aren't necessarily there at those times too. But we're doing, the majority of our clinics are on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then Thursdays and Fridays we're in the shelters doing rapid Binax testing. So we're in there for quite a bit.
Yes, that is. And is there any way for when those times and locations come up that information can be shared on the Google groups on when the vaccine, like what food, you said food stops now or food sites, like when that will be available?
That's a great idea. So I'm scheduling next week's now. I will add that to the group.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kylie. Let's see here. So thank you again, Kylie, for taking time out of your busy day. And then now we have SNAP. So last month we had spoken about, SNAP gave us an update on how they handled the cold front, but also we dabbled in a little bit of the coordinated entry assessment process. And Amanda, are you available with us?
I am. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning again. Thank you for month 2 in a row. Thanks for making it. Can you give us kind of, I know last month we spoke a little bit about coordinated entry as you were giving us an update, the approach to the cold front and how that was operationalized through SNAP and structured through SNAP. Can you give us kind of a brief overview of coordinated entry? I usually describe it as kind of a coffee filter for housing services. But also kind of access points. I know you're going to give us an update if there was any on access to those assessments.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me back again. So for those of you that don't know, this is speaking specifically about the singles homeless coordinated assessment or coordinated entry for singles. And ultimately that's an assessment that people go through, which then rates their vulnerability and some other things in their life and determines where they fall in the pool of everyone else that's also seeking services in regards to that vulnerability, their homelessness, and a lot of different components of life. And then the majority of the services here in Spokane that serve singles pull from out of that pool. But as far as an update, I actually have something super exciting to share today. I did just this week, we promoted one of our existing staff, Amy Johnson, who is here today, and she's going to be the new SHCA Coordinated Assessment lead for our agency. So I see some people clapping, and she's pretty well known in our community. She's great. We are super excited, and she's here today, and I'm actually going to have her fill you in since it's a little bit more her expertise anyway. So Amy, are you here with us today and ready to do that?
I sure am. Thank you. I'm Amy Johnson. Some of you do know me. I've been around for a little bit. Just a little bit of brief history. I've been with SNAP since 2015. Came in as a temp employee doing the reentry program, and then went right into working for SHCA, and I've been doing it ever since. So I have had the opportunity and pleasure to watch this program grow from almost inception, and I think inception was 2014 or 13 or something like that. And to watch it grow over the years has just been kind of super cool. Currently, the following entry points that we have, that as Amanda mentioned, SNAP is the primary lead for singles coordinated entry, and the other satellites or entry points that folks can get access to singles coordinated entry are YWCA, Women's Hearth, Transitions, Hope House, the VOA, VOA Crosswalk. They serve 13 to 24, I believe it is, Frontier Behavioral Health, Goodwill, and HOC Catholic Charities. So those are the entry points to get into the singles coordinated entry. Yeah, that's all I've got. I think not much more to share about that. I look forward to working with everybody, and I'll put my contact information in the chat.
Amy, thank you so much. I know I have had the privilege of collaborating with you before in the past on some patients that come through, and definitely enjoy the fact that you're going to be there. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of the programs that are offered after a coordinated entry assessment? I know it's based on kind of a score, but kind of what's the potential support that can be available after a coordinated entry assessment?
Yeah, Robert. So basically, the first approach that our folks and everybody within our agency is doing these assessments or needs assessments, we're starting with the diversion approach, which is to evaluate what the individual could potentially complete on their own or do on their own as far as what the resources they have. So that's our first discussion, and then it leads into potentially doing that needs assessment and going from there on further housing interventions. So housing interventions look like rapid rehousing, deposit only. There are others out there, different programs, right? So there's a few things depending on what that individual qualifies based on what Amanda said on that scoring table. Then that's how we kind of lead them in the direction of the appropriate housing intervention.
Now, is that accompanied with the SPDAT score? How does the SPDAT and what is the SPDAT fit into that process?
So the SPDAT is an org code, and I'm not going to quote org code stuff because it's kind of boring, but it is interesting to me. But anyway, it's a really good case management tool. So at the entry point, we determine where they score in that SPDAT, right? From where to start. We have a start point, right? And so we utilize that SPDAT to do case management, kind of to just see how the progression or where they need to be, right? And what interventions are going to suit them the best. And so that's where the SPDAT comes in, is in the beginning, as that's just our beginning starting point, right? That first step of where we begin and where we start talking about what their needs are and what their strengths are. So yeah, and then that's how we can kind of lead into those conversation of directional of the housing intervention.
Yeah, and what's kind of the scale of that score? Is it like 0 to like how high does the score go? And is it the higher the score, the more services are available, or the more options are available? How does that work?
Well, so 0 to 60 is the scoring range of the SPDAT for the singles. It is higher for the family side. And it's a little bit designed a little bit different. So you go with 0 being the lowest intervention, obviously, to the highest points, which are 60, the higher interventions. Typically, when folks are in that range between 50 and 60, we're really looking at those folks that may fall into that chronic range. Those are our most typical clients that are falling in that scoring range, right? Those are our chronic folks that are out there that we've been addressing quite a bit, and that's how we're going to address, this get to functional 0 kind of thing. Is we're going to go that way backwards, deal with those folks first and kind of work our way down the scale. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then as far as like walk-in availability, is there any for those individuals who may be camping and not maybe associated with Catholic Charities or Volunteers of Goodwill, all these different satellite locations, I guess, to access an assessment? Where can they go, or where could someone who's working in the field as outreach support send them for that access?
Well, that's the nice thing about our outreach teams that we have out there. We have a team, SSBF, they have teams that go out and they hit the encampments, and they are able to meet those folks where they are, and kind of work on planting those seeds and getting them to the point of being able to start the process of housing, because not all of them are ready at that first introduction, right? Yeah. And then they also filter throughout the shelter system and collaborate with other agencies, I think like Jules and stuff like that. So yeah, we all work together to meet these people where they are.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Amy. And thank you again for the update, and congratulations on your new position there at SNAP.
Thank you.
Robert, can I just add one more thing? I will send out to Homeless Coalition email group today our list of phone numbers for people to access to if they need to, are formally our walk-in hours. People don't have to go by those hours. We've got a few different numbers they can call. And then again, I'll put Amy's contact information. She'll be the new contact versus Ariel Anderson for all things related to the SPDAT and coordinated entry. So thank you guys again for having us.
Yeah.
Robert, there is one more thing for Amy to clarify for people that are trying to make referrals. And that is, what kind of document do you need? Do people need to bring before you enter them in SPDAT? Well, what will you be looking for? What kind of information are you looking for, so that people know and be prepared when they are making referrals to SNAP, that this is the kind of things that will be needed, ID, Social Security, or anything like that?
Well, Francis, I first want to point out that we have really strived for eliminating that barrier of ID and Social Security card. So yes, that documentation is sometimes harder to obtain, but those are why we have those initial conversations with the folks to see where they're at, right? And then we know if we need to assist coordinating with getting ID and Social Security birth certificate or whatever documents they need in order to obtain stable housing. Because as they get into the process, landlords are not going to work with folks that that don't have some of those documents, and so therefore we try to get those documents, if they're not document ready, initially, and then move forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Francis. Good question. Good to hear your voice. I haven't heard you in a little while. It's good to hear from you. All right, so moving on. Thank you again, SNAP team, for providing that information. And we will go ahead and hand the platform over to Mr. David Lewis. Mr. Lewis, are you with us today?
I am. I'm right here. Can everybody hear me and see me okay? I hope so. I want to apologize up front. I am having some emergency repairs done to my roof, and it is a lot louder than I was anticipating. So you might hear some hammering. I apologize for that. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I don't always get opportunities like this, so I appreciate the time. Really what I want to focus on today is just to kind of give a quick overview of what our CMIS program is, what we do, the scope of it, and then I'm going to go into some of the data reports and products that we make available to the continuum of care and our community as a whole. So what does CMIS stand for? So that stands for Community Management Information System. Now, most of you are probably familiar with HMIS, Homeless Management Information System. So just because acronyms are fun and adding that complexity, reason we refer to our database as a CMIS is we are far beyond the scope that HUD defines. So we are addressing populations that are involved with healthcare, that are at risk of homelessness, so prevention services. We have collaborations with DSHS and Spokane Regional Health District. And I see Jenna is on this call, which is great. Always great to see her. So we're working with the zone as the database to support their efforts. So that was in part why we wanted to rebrand, because we're about community. Our homeless and vulnerable populations are part of that community, and we want to support the social safety nets that are working to serve them wherever they're at on the homelessness spectrum. So that was, sir.
Real quick, what's the zone for
I'm gonna let Jenna share it. The zone is an awesome. I'm really happy to work with them. So Jenna, do you want to share?
Absolutely, just 30 seconds or less. The zone is a resident-led initiative out of the Northeast Community Center, and residents sit down with residents and goal set, multi-generational, multi-sector with each household. And that is all in a dashboard, all the family members at once through CMIS. And in this way, we are going to overcome generational poverty. We're going to overcome systemic barriers to equity. And we are going to assure that all families are thriving. That's the zone.
Yes. Thank you, Jenna. So that's kind of like what the CMIS is and why we moved away from just referring to it as an HMIS, because we can't stop with that. I mean, we got to meet vulnerable populations where they're at. And so that's what we're looking to do. And I think also, I don't know that we like to refer to homelessness as something that's managed. I mean, we're all part of a community. So I think that there's a better way of addressing like the nature of the supports we provide and why we're doing it. Currently, the database has right around 430 caseworkers that participate on a daily and weekly basis, just around 30 different participating agencies. Some of those I've already mentioned: Spokane Regional Health District, DSHS, SNAP, Catholic Charities, most of the community nonprofits that are receiving either direct funding from the city of Spokane, the state, or that have federal funding in some way, shape, or form. We work with Health and Human Services, the VA, of course, HUD. So we run the gambit of all the acronyms and also work closely with the Department of Commerce to support all the programs that they're funding in the area. Some of the work that we've done really recently, which I think is exciting because it shows the role that data and the way that technology can act as a force multiplier, bringing people together, is our work with Spokane Regional Health District and the COVID mitigation supports we were able to provide there. Really looking forward to working further with them. And on the subject of public health, we're also working with WSU School of Medicine, trying to work more closely with the street medicine group and to expand our ability to support outreach efforts. And I know that's been talked about a couple of times. So the CMIS does support our street outreach teams and helping to get clients that are on the streets that are involved in that trust building process that we know is so essential to getting them to the point where we can really help them in housing. So we support that work and will continue to do so. We're always looking for new and better ways that we can use that technology to make life easier for the caseworkers. Our goal, of course, is to reduce the amount of time that caseworkers are spending actually entering data and more time benefiting from the data that is there so that they're freeing up time to provide more direct service. The team itself, there's just 3 of us, including myself, to do that. And we receive roughly between 3,000 and 5,000 requests for support, assistance, data, you name it, per year. So we stay pretty busy, but we certainly love the work and like to see the data supporting our community. As far as what that data looks like, I'm going to cover just the basics. We do a lot of what I would call customized reporting, and that would be reporting or electronic forms and supports for programs like the Zone, for example. But today I'm really going to focus on what do we do that's a contractual requirement for HUD that is something that we make available to the COC board. So one of those, and I had I was able to present a little bit on this, and I'm hoping to share with this group here in the near future, is the Systems Performance Measures report. That's it's called the SPM. Everything has an acronym, as we all know. And what that report does is it shows our performance as a community for all the state and federal funding sources along 7 key metrics. Some of those metrics include how effectively are we increasing income for those that are exiting or staying in programs? How about the length of time homelessness? Are we reducing that for those that are on the streets that we're trying to move into shelters and eventually permanent housing solutions? What percentage of those that we have successfully placed in housing come back? How many newly homeless are we seeing each year that haven't been previously served in our system? And even point in time count trends. What are we seeing that increasing, decreasing? What are the reasons behind that? So that is one report that we offer that we produce each year. And we're currently, we just presented to the COC board, and we'll be sharing out that presentation and others. I know, Joan, you had you were on that call, which was great. Oh, sorry about that. But yes, so that's our SPM.
Real quickly on those 7 metrics with this performance measures, is there any alignment with the 5-year?
Yes. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Robert. That's a great. Thank you for keeping me focused. Yes. So there is a direct alignment really with our SPM and our federal reporting in general with the 5-year plan, and that's intentional. So some of the goals in our 5-year plan, I'll just point one out that has always really been there, which is reducing the length of time that people spend homeless. That's a direct correlation with the SPM. And in fact, when we're developing iterative improvements to that plan, we're using data from the CMIS to support what direction that plan needs to go. Have we been successful? Where have we not been successful? I think we need to do a better job of that. And that's something that my team and I are working on to ensure that we have greater alignment between the data we're producing and our planning efforts, because the data is just data. It's only useful if we're using it to create information and inform our plans and ultimately to improve services. So just another one I wanted to talk about, because I know that there's a lot of questions around, when we're considering what do our homeless numbers look like? And the longitudinal systems analysis report, which is just a really fancy term that HUD put together. We call it the LSA. That some of you might remember the AHAR, which was an older report from years ago. That's the annual homelessness assessment report. The LSA goes to Congress and informs the AHAR. That is what Congress uses to evaluate and make determinations around resource allocation. And what that fancy longitudinal systems analysis report does is it shows the flow over the course of a year of clients through our various housing interventions. emergency shelter, transitional housing, and visually depicts what does that look like through different lenses. Like if we're applying a racial equity focus, are we seeing disparities in who's being served, who's not being served, what outcomes look like, and that goes beyond just numbers, just aggregate numbers. It helps. It really, I think, speaks more to what the story of what the data is telling us rather than just more numbers. And that's another reporting option we have available. A lot of these we post directly on our team website, which is SpokaneCMIS.org.
And is that used throughout the entire state?
It's used throughout the entire state and country. It's a federal mandate, so we produce it each year. We don't really go the minimum with that. We've always tried to add on to it or find ways of I like to call it Spokanizing the data, because there's trends and metrics that are really specific to Spokane and what we're trying to do with our program. So the federal report's really a baseline. And then we look to see, well, what other data points do we want to collect? What's going to best serve the client? What's going to, just help move us forward as a community? We also have what we call annual performance reports, and those are APRs. And any COC funded project, so for example, St. Margaret Shelter is an example of that. Every year there's an APR generated that shows performance for how that project met HUD's performance standards. And that's a very in-depth dive. That's over 30 different metrics, looking at demographic information, everything about what disabling conditions or barriers those clients had that should be considered, how many met the definition of chronically homeless, and so forth. So that's a very focused, very intensive look at an individual project. So whereas the SPM, the LSA, these are very high level. We do have reporting that's federal, that's very focused. And really the APR is great, but we do a lot of custom reporting as well that's specifically focused on individual projects or even household types that, we're looking to see how as a system or an individual project we're performing. And of course, there's the point in time count. And we are going to be starting report outs the week of the 5th. And so that's coming up next week. We're going to hit all the groups. That's going to go to the COC board as here starting the week of the 5th, going to get that presentation scheduled. Anybody is welcome to attend that one. And of course, we can look at scheduling time to report out to this group as well. Typically data requests that we get, because SHC does have that board position on the COC board, we like to be able to share it with the COC board, knowing that we have SHC representation there, because it helps us get the most information out as fast as possible. And then we can, of course, follow up as needed. I think, and I don't know if Robert's briefed this group, but one of the projects that is currently being worked on is the establishment of a website for the COC. So hopefully that'll help with transparency, addressing questions that come up, and ultimately just help with communication. And so those really sum up just the federal core requirements. Operationally, we, as Ben alluded to, we support day-to-day operations. So if somebody is getting a service and it goes through coordinated assessment, that's based off the CMIS data. If we're putting together by name lists for case conferencing, that's coming out of the CMIS. So it's a little bit more than just the data outputs. It's used daily by case managers to inform the work and the services they're providing.
And David, with the going back to the LSA, you had mentioned kind of Spokanizing the data. What type of is that now? Is that when you put things in there that are more contributions for Spokane population group? Is that involvement? Does that happen through the COC, or maybe how can maybe frontline workers, throughout the coalition because the COC, there's a different level of engagement with the board member, but there's a lot of coalition partners that are willing to, passionate about, professional, people who can provide metrics for you.
That's a great question. So the formal structure of the COC, so we have what we call our CMIS committee, and that's an advisory committee that's comprised of providers and stakeholders that oversee kind of CMIS operations. And a lot of the requests come through that group. I'll give you a good example of a recent request that came up that would differ from what HUD or the state requires, but it's something we're doing because it's going to help speed up services to clients faster. And that is, according to the HUD data standards, you ask individuals about their status as veterans. Information provided that's entered into the CMIS is client derived, meaning that's the response the client provides. That's what goes in. But unfortunately, the VA has eligibility criteria that needs to confirm whether somebody is a veteran. So it's possible the client feels they're a veteran, but per VA standards or other eligibility criteria, they're not. But that data currently is not in the CMIS. So one of the things we would add that would be very unique to Spokane is a field for case managers at Goodwill or healthcare for homeless vets, or the VA itself, because we work with the VA hospitals as well. They could update that field to say, yes, this person meets the eligibility criteria defined by the VA. What does that mean? That means it's easier to get them a voucher for VASH or veteran eligible programs without requiring the caseworker to have to wonder or look for documentation. So that's immediately available to them. Another benefit is, and something that we do that's really unique to Spokane, is knowing that there's challenges around client documentation and that can be an eligibility criteria and hurdle for getting them into certain permanent supportive housing projects. We allow that client to store documents that they might lose or otherwise not have available in the CMIS. So it's directly available and connects between the point of referral and the point where the housing is provided. All required documentation is there. So we're able to eliminate superfluous steps in the process and get them housed faster.
So would a potential segue then be for individuals within this coalition group to get involved in providing some of that information would be through that work groups that Ben was talking about, through the different committees, basically?
Yeah, so the committee structure, that work group structure is really, I think, where we could have good communication and get in a structured way to inform what additions, what changes we're going to want to make. So those work groups will inform either the subcommittees or the COC board, and then as a board, really that decision's made around what direction is the CMIS going to go. And I think as well, especially when we're talking about lived experience, I think that those work groups are crucial. One work group that I know is being formed and where I've spent a lot of time recently is racial equity. So we're using a lot of data from our CMIS to inform what does equity look like in Spokane and where are we seeing the greatest inequities, and then using that data to inform that working group so they can actually get to policies. And that's also something I'm currently working with Eastern Washington University on, which is a social equity index for all of Spokane County. So there's a lot of work that's going on, and the best way to make sure that everybody's input gets funneled to the right groups is to try to be engaged in those working groups.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, David. So, oh, go
David,
ahead.
There was a question in chat, and David, I wanted you to be able to respond to it. It's from Heather Wallace at the Regional Health District, and she asked, can orgs do internal referrals within CMIS? So
yes, so that's a great question. So the nice thing about our software is we do have a closed loop real-time referral system. So the way that works is, let's say I'm at SNAP and I want to, and right now it's really used by our coordinated assessment providers. They input referrals. The system generates an email to let the agency that's going to be providing the service know that this client is on their way and is being referred for this service. And then the agency receiving the referral can update it based on the outcome. And that way we're able to measure the rate of successful placements versus potentially the client is not accepted. Okay, why weren't they accepted? Where did we go wrong as far as understanding the patchwork of eligibility criteria that our projects and agencies have. So, and that can also go if you're like, say at the zone, that's one of the things we're going to be working on. How can a family advocate at the zone that's providing that mentorship to a family to set goals? Well, nutrition's a big issue right now, and that's something we're working to address in our partnership with the zone. They may need to refer a client out for services and can do so through the CMIS.
And for those organizations that wanted to participate in CMIS and get access, how does that, how do you become eligible basically to access CMIS?
So there's a series of requirements as you would imagine there would be. One of the biggest needs that can be a hurdle is we need to establish that the requesting party is able to meet all the privacy standards that we have in place. So as an organization, they would need to be able to ensure that they're providing annual required training, that their software and hardware meets the security requirements set forth by HUD. Because again, our database is dealing with HIPAA, FERPA, and 42 CFR Part 2 protected data. So we take that very seriously, and that can be the most time-consuming aspect of getting access because we have to vet all of that. And so that can be a bit of a challenge. Requests, I can always be emailed to me, and what I do is I bring those to the CMIS committee to discuss those with the committee, because those organizations, based on the nature of our data sharing agreement, are stakeholders that have a vested interest in who's going to be accessing that data, and they decide as a group how that's going to work.
Okay, perfect. And then lastly, the last question is that came up, is the doc storage available for all clients or veterans only?
All clients. We allow it for all clients. It's not limited to veterans. I would say right now where it's getting used the most is with veterans in PSH. And the reason for PSH is it is crazy hard to get all the documentation together for that. There's a lot of eligibility criteria, and it's easy. I mean, the clients can't be expected to have all that on hand. Like, that's just not going to work. So that's where it gets used the most.
Well, thank you again, David, for your time.
Yeah, of course. Sorry for going over, and sorry for the banging.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much again for taking your time out of your schedule. It's always good to have a numbers guy, and I'm not that person. So thank you for being that person. All right, so moving on here, we have, we've come to kind of the conclusion of our meeting, but I want to leave the virtual stage open for individuals who want to give organizational update about kind of any updates within your system. But then after that, we're going to have kind of a continuation or an update of the action group that developed over the past couple months of the coalition. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the mic open for any specific updates organizationally that you want to give us.
And Robert, can I throw in something else along the way before you start that? Short updates in the action group. I am going to put up in a poll right now that you guys are welcome to answer. The goal here is for the coalition leadership to find out what information or presentations or topics you like and want us to provide for you. So if you could just do that and listen at the same time, be grateful. There you go. Okay, up from updates, informational people.
Hi, everyone. This is Seth Hackenberg at the Spokane Community Court. I just want to let everyone know we do have our new social service navigator in place at the Martin Luther King Jr. Community Center. His name is Jarrell Haynes, and he's joined us to help link everyone up with or anyone that comes into the MLK Jr. Community Center, whether they're a community court participant or just someone in the East Central community that needs services. You can go there and ask for him, and he'll be able to link you up and kind of work as the middleman for that. So we're excited for him to be joining the team. And like I said, he'll be operating out of the MLK Jr. Community Center in the East Central neighborhood. That's 500 South Stone Street.
Thank you, Seth.
This is Sherry Gagitano. I have two things actually. So I'm with Spokane Valley Community Advocates, and we are launching an emergency mutual aid program called REACT, or Responsive Emergency Aid Communication Tree. So think back to the old church phone tree. When a crisis happened with a member, calls went out, people helped. I want to do that on a larger scale using text and email, and it'll cover east of Spokane, Colbert, Meade, down to Valley Ford. I need members to sign up to be part of it. So in the chat, I've included a description and then the form. If you're interested in becoming a member of that, and I'm really hoping that people will, because we can't get it up and running without members to call or to text and email when needs come out. Also, I was a volunteer with West Central Development Project for the rental assistance event on Wednesday. And we served 14 people, helping them get the rental assistance application done. We helped with over $100,000 in rental assistance. I would like to do an event out here in the Valley because there is a need out here for this. I'm thinking maybe April 17th. I'm looking for anybody out there who might want to help me put it together. SNAP does not have the people to run the event, but they're willing to train us if I can get it going. So that's it. And my information is in the chat. I just think that would be really helpful out here. A lot of people need it.
Definitely. Thank you, Sherry. Anyone else?
Robert, can I go ahead and go?
Go ahead. Virginia?
Hi, my name is Virginia Matheny. I work with the Healthy Kids Together program through Better Health Together. I'm one of 2 parent mentors that do the program, and we help sign folks up for health insurance through the Washington Health Plan Finder, which is free or low cost health insurance or a qualified health plan. There's also a special enrollment period that opened up on February 15th and goes until June 30th now. It was just extended to. And that allows for folks to sign up if they have no health insurance. It's kind of like the open enrollment timeframe.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Virginia. And here we have the polling results. Thank you so much for doing that, Barry.
Colin has his hand up.
Yeah, so I don't know how many of you caught my introduction at the beginning of the meeting. I'm an AmeriCorps volunteer working with the Spokane Alliance to boost affordable housing in West Central. And so the group that I'm working with is, we're assembling like this little event this Saturday at 12 o'clock at the West Central Abbey on 1832 West Dean to walk around the neighborhood and find any vacant homes and any multifamily properties to try to hopefully at some point in the future provide some affordable housing. So if you're interested in walking around the neighborhood and getting to know your community members in a COVID safe and friendly manner, we don't want to be little COVID super spreaders out here. I'll put my email in the chat and my phone number, and feel free to reach out to me regarding if you're interested in volunteering for that.
Thank you, Colin. I see Jen Snow. No, just stretching. I have an update for our clinic specifically, the Providence Charity Clinic on the corner of 2nd and Brown Walk-in Clinic. Rosemary Ware, if you're familiar, I totally spaced this with the, she's an attorney that assists with SSI and SSDI claims, the initial claims. She's going to be at our clinic on starting in May on Thursdays from 9:30 until noon. So she's been itching to get back in action, and she's going to be doing that at our location here. So please keep that on your calendars. May Thursdays. I think it's 9 till 12:30. That is when she'll be here on Thursdays. So keep that in mind, because I know access to that support has been pretty scarce. So she's excited to get going again on that. We also still do our walk-in psych evaluations. on Tuesday afternoons with Dr. Sam Murray. I'm hoping he'll be able to present with us in the future. But we also assist with follow-up and getting them connected after that evaluation. And then lastly, our foot care clinic has kicked off to offer foot care Friday afternoons at the clinic. So keep that in mind too.
Anybody else? I love that, Robert. Your foot care clinic is kicked off. Okay, that maybe I'm the only one.
Hello, this is Don Gillespie. I'm from SSVF, and just want to, reach out and remind everyone to, as you're assessing people in that and finding out a veteran status, you're welcome to send them to our hotline, which is 828-2449. We can screen them on the spot. Last month, we screened over 35 people, and a high percentage of those are moving forward. So we just encourage you to use that. Yes.
I can see that you're driving. What was that
I pulled
phone
over
number again?
It's 828-2449.
Okay.
And my friend Otis just put it up in the chat. So we're outreach specialists. I'm in Deer Park. Hello from Deer Park.
Okay, Jen, it looks like you're doing more than stretching. Can't hear you. You look like you're unmuted, but can't hear you. Now you're.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. My mic was set to the wrong spot. Hi, my name is Jen Snell, and I'm the case manager lead for the Housing and Essential Needs, or HEN program at Goodwill. Just a couple of things. I know that we were mentioned earlier by Katie. Hi, Katie. We talk to each other a lot. So the Housing and Essential Needs program, if you have anybody that you're working with who receives ABD, the Aged, Blind, Disabled subsidy, please send them our way. We are able to do coordinated assessment, SPDAT, and get them some resources pretty quickly. Not necessarily housing. We do have a wait list for that. And we have an info line that people can call, and I will put that in the chat. And the second thing is that we also have 2 case manager positions open right now within HEN. They are listed as temporary positions, but we're hoping, based on the state legislature, that they will be permanent positions once we get our new funding for the year, find out what the funding is for the year. So you can apply for that position, or I know there's some positions open also with SSVF at discovergoodwill.org. Yeah, and as always, if you have any questions, please give me a call or email, and I'll put my information for that in the chat also. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Quick announcement. No? Well, thank you for staying around. This kind of like post-meeting time, I leave open for kind of discussions. Last month, it exploded with a very energetic and committed group deciding to form work groups. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Joan to tell us about their work and how you can get involved.
Thanks, Barry. So I'm here to present on what the action group has been doing. Just real briefly, we met between the big action group and subcommittees. We met, I think, at least 7 or 8 times, maybe more, just in the last 3 weeks. Our first meeting was on March 12th. We have folks who are members of the coalition who are also involved in like the League of Women Voters and the Continuum of Care, and a bunch of from Gonzaga University. So we have a wide variety of people who have come together. There's over 20 of us who have been working on the Stop the Sweeps statement that we've been trying to craft. And we've even had participation from some of the folks on the street. So it's been a very wide umbrella of representation and ideas. And I just feel like we have a dream team of people who are dedicated and understand the urgency of what we're trying to accomplish. And we've been working really, really hard to get this done. So I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing my screen. I sent out the final draft of the statement that we came up with earlier this morning. I sent one out, I think, on Sunday night, but we had 2 meetings since then, and we've made a couple more edits. So this is the actual final statement. And hopefully everybody can see this now. Yeah, okay, Barry's shaking his head yes, so I'll assume everybody can see it. I don't want to read word for word because it's over 3 pages long. So I just want to touch on the ideas behind the different sections, and then open it up for questions if anybody has any questions about it. And then after I do my portion, Dale is going to talk about some of the justice issues and inequity issues related to the statement, and the importance of collaboration, and all of us reaching out and working together on this. And then Dawn is also going to talk about our next steps and signature gathering and how that's all going to work. And then what we'd like to do before we end is find out from those of you who are interested in working with the action group and helping us out, when is the best time for us to have our next meeting in the next week or so. So here it goes. So with the statement, the first 3 whereases have to do with low barrier shelter beds, and how there's not enough low barrier shelter beds in the city of Spokane. What is the definition of low barrier shelter, and how the city doesn't really have a definition for that, and what are some of the things that are barriers for people, whether they're part of an official definition of what low barrier means or not. So that's what the first 3 kind of deal with. Then number 4 talks about how the city doesn't provide public information, real-time availability on the shelter beds. And there's so many issues behind that that I'm not sure we have time to get into, but it ranges from there's no availability information sometimes until very late at night, and places like House of Charity now, I guess, are what I understand is they only have a very narrow window of intake. So after their intake closes at 8 o'clock, even if they have shelter beds available, people can't use them because they're not accepting new guests after 8 o'clock at night. So, what does the numbers, do these numbers of available beds really mean? It's all very ethereal and doesn't really work in providing information to people on the street that's actually helpful. But it's being used, the numbers are being used by enforcement to sweep camps and to force people to move along and to say, well, you should be in a shelter, when that's not actually a real viable situation for people. Number 5, there's no designated areas for anyone to legally exist outdoors on public property. And so people are being constantly moved around and forced to pack up their stuff. And there's no well, this is further down in there, but there's no day centers for people to go to either. So even places like the library where people used to be able to go to before COVID and before the construction project are not available now. The library's just recently opened up. You know, you can have 30 minutes by making an appointment ahead of time. But, you know, for people to be able to just hang out at the library during the day and get out of the weather or have some place to exist other than the sidewalk, those places don't exist right now. Number 6, we're getting into some of the legal decisions with the Ninth Circuit that kind of well, I'm going to let Ken take the legal stuff. He's much better talking about that.
It just seems that we're continuing to criminalize behavior that, given our housing market, given the dearth of low-income housing available for people, and the lack of information and lack of enough shelter beds for all the unsheltered, makes it a crime to do things which seem a bit unavoidable or impractical to address. So we continue to play whack-a-mole, essentially, with men and women that need a break and need support and help to move forward. And that's essentially what it seems our legal structure and enforcement structure is angled towards. And that's what those speak to.
Yeah, so 6 has to do with basically seizing, confiscating people's property while they're momentarily away for eating or, you know, using the restroom or whatever. And 7 talks about how as long as there aren't available shelter beds, the government can't criminalize people existing in public, such as on the sidewalk. But we do that here in Spokane. Let's see, number 8, I'm also going to let Ken talk about 8 and 9, about the policies, the overlapping policies.
It's what I was speaking to. I guess the federal courts have weighed in and ruled that we can't do this criminalization if there's no options for people. And the way we've got it set up, they can be enforced, the policies we have, in ways that don't respect the legal rights of people that they're enforcing them against. Often there's things removed with no 48-hour notice, with no notice that it can be retrieved. And there's not a lot of retrieval happens. A lot of what happens is they get tossed into code enforcement dump trucks and removed, disposed of permanently.
So an example of that would be last week, an individual, or no, it was this week. It was earlier this week, an individual received 3 citations from the police for being in one spot. One was a illegal camping citation. One was I think a trespassing citation. Citation, and then the
obstruction of the sidewalk.
The other one was obstruction of the public right-of-way citation. So I mean, we've got all these different laws
for one behavior. He was trying to survive
for one incident. So it's like, if they can't get someone on trespassing or obstruction of the right-of-way, they can get people for illegal camping, or they can get people for sit lie, or, you know, there's just so many layers of how people can be arrested and cited. And right now, you know, the resource room is not available at community court. Community court is very limited right now, access. And like, we had a gentleman who was supposed to go to community court on Tuesday, and he couldn't leave his stuff, and the person who was supposed to come and watch his stuff for him didn't show, so he didn't make it to community court. And so now he's at risk of having a bench warrant issued for him, and for his arrest. And you know, he's at risk of having the police swoop down and arrest him at any time, because he wasn't able to show up to community court, because he didn't want to leave his stuff and then have it, stolen or confiscated. So these are the issues that people are dealing with. He didn't have a working phone. So, it wasn't charged up. So he couldn't call the public defender's office. And I ended up calling the public defender's office on his behalf later in the afternoon, but they were closed and no one was available. So there's so many layers of issues that people are having to deal with these bench warrants that are being issued if you don't make it to community court. There's also very unclear policies, and I'm looking at number 10, that aren't consistently adhered to by the people who are doing the enforcement, the city staff. So like in the policy that Mayor Woodward signed back in November, it says that if people are not at their camp, that they're supposed to give a 48-hour notice before they actually conduct the sweep. But they're not giving that notice. And it says that if things are taken, they're supposed to leave a notice of how they're supposed to get their stuff back, but they're not leaving that notice either. And when I asked about it yesterday, I was talking to someone from a communications person from code enforcement. I was asking questions like, so where are these notices placed? If they've taken the person's tent and all of their belongings, where are they placing these notices for people to get their stuff back? And she couldn't answer my question. She didn't know. And the reality is, what we're hearing from people on the street is that no notices, whether it's a prior notice, 48-hour notice, or whether it's an after the fact notice, nobody's seen any of these notices. They're not being given out. And then it's not consistent with, if you are there at your camp, apparently they don't have to give you written notice that they're going to do this. And so,
there's no point.
There's no due process. There's no printed documentation to say, when did this happen, how to get your stuff back. And people out on the street, they're not keeping track of dates and times. They can't tell you, it was exactly on March 22nd that the police came and swept my camp and took my stuff, because they don't have that kind of thing. And so without having the written notice that code enforcement did this or the police did this, there's no proof of, I don't know what that means, Ken.
Asks. Maybe before, we might lose some people that have limited time that are on the job today. Perhaps we could get straight to the asks, the whereas section, and encourage people to read through all of this, ask any questions they may have.
Yeah, let's do that. I did want to mention that all of the whereas section is being supported by an addendum that is still being worked on and put together of documentation and first source materials, primary source materials and references to what is being talked about in the whereas. So the asks that we're coming up with is: 1, stop the sweeps immediately. 2, provide 24/7 adequately serviced public toilets and hand washing stations throughout downtown. And this is in conjunction with CDC recommendations. 3, provide trash receptacles and regular collection services in areas where people are sheltering in place outdoors. And we also want to include safe sharps disposal containers in that ask. And 2 and 3 really have to do with public health situations. 4, and also complaints that businesses downtown, have been making about human waste, about garbage and litter on the sidewalks. And if the city would provide these things, that would be eliminated.
That could empower people to take responsibility themselves, and many are. There's best practices everyone in outreach has seen, where camps that are well maintained, well cared for, without the human waste or toxic sharps. That is the biggest complaint and the most generates the most outcry.
Provide storage lockers or units for people who, who would otherwise be camping, because where are they supposed to put all their stuff so that they can, go to their appointments or go to their job
or go to a shelter
because the shelters they only allow so much stuff to be stored. They only have room for so much. So, where is all their camping gear supposed to go during the day? Identify areas of public property where people can shelter outside, whether that's in a vehicle or camping. Those places do not exist right now. All we have are policies and laws that say where they can't exist.
Make it a crime.
And make it a crime. And then the last ask is to provide plentiful low barrier day centers for both men and women, adult and teen and youth, because those places don't really exist right now. Even like Women's Hearth and Citygate, they've been closed with COVID. The library where people could go isn't an option anymore. So we're asking for these places to exist, and we need secure funding for these places. So there's a little bit more, but I'm not going to go into all that right now. I just want to open it up to any questions that anybody has at this time.
Yes, I do have a question, and I have a contribution. I think we have to address facts and not fiction. And I think we would do best if we approach this issue in a dispassionate manner and not try to whip up sentiment and against organizations that are doing good work. I know Women's Heart are doing their best to keep their doors open to help people and all of that. So let's ground our assessment on facts. One of the things that was said today was that, people are getting warrant out of community court for more than a year. We have not issued a single warrant during the pandemic. And in fact, now that the Supreme Court has lifted the ban, prosecutors have to make a special dispensation on this type of cases to be able to get a warrant. So when we speak of people getting warrant in community court, we lose a lot of people there because people are going to look at us as very unserious, and not knowing our facts. And then this is a good write-up, but it seems to be a solution looking for problem where it does not lie. I think the problem lies in the crime, is in the laws itself. If you really want to address this, just face the fact. Don't talk about people enforcing the law. The law is on the book. If you don't want the law, just talk about the law itself.
Yes.
Just say you want the city council to decriminalize sit and lie, for instance. If that is your approach, but don't blame people that the city has put in place to enforce the law, that are doing their best. I'm not defending downtown precinct, but I can say with certainty that working with them in the last 7 years, the officers there and sign up for it. It's not every officer that is suited for this type of work. And the Spokane Police Department do their best to do that. So let's not, rubbish people that are doing their best in a difficult situation. Let's put the problem where the problem lies. If you don't want sit and lie in your city, come out, make a recommendation to the city council to eliminate it. But if it's on the book and they are enforcing it, we are pushing, we are pushing the problem on the wrong people. But I do see the point. Let me finish this. I do see the point in the city having a plan on people's property. We have to do a better job of taking care of people's property.
Yeah.
However, you know, when I've talked about this issue, the problem has always been determining which one is which, especially when people are going to jail. And people have not been going to jail, by the way, not on this type of charges. The people that go to jail on this type of charges, when they are arrested, they had controlled substance charge added to their charges. In other words, they are felony that makes them to go to jail. But in the last 1 year since the pandemic, I've never really seen somebody that go to jail on sit and lie. And all those cases come to my desk. I'm working. The last 2 days, we have dismissed close to 45 cases of people that stay out of trouble for a month that didn't even show up at community court, but they stay out of trouble for a month. I'm working on these cases now. See, this is the file I'm working on, dismissing these cases for people that didn't show up, but they have stayed out of trouble. I don't know what else we can do to show the good faith. The laws, the crime, the charges are, the laws are on the book. So activists that really want to help should focus their attention on decriminalizing these charges and not vilifying people that are doing their best within their limited means to make this work. So please get your facts right when you speak about this issue, because it really doesn't speak well for us as Homeless Coalition, because this coalition has done a lot of good. And when we mix fact with fiction, we rubbish the work that many organizations here are doing. So
I just want to chime in a little bit about Dale Brees here, lived experience, and the co-chair of the Homeless COC body. And, you know, I mean, this is all about collaboration and neutralization and mediation across our community. I don't see, you know, and of course, justice is only going to be moved ahead or changed if we actually push some, you know, buttons. And it's because I don't see this as something that going against the current providers. I think it's more about pushing the system to change and evolve. And our system in Spokane has been based upon many different, you know, it's pretty scattered except for the COC funds as homeless planning. And we have to do better at moving the needle about, you know, if the homeless want to speak, which I see this a representation of this document, is they're the ones that are speaking about toilets, you know, access to and showers, or, you know, and just, you know, it's the humanizing piece of it. That doesn't come from going after the law first. We have to touch hearts. We have to, you know, and move individuals through, you know, this journey of life and help them see that there's vulnerabilities. COVID has made our community so vulnerable, our social vulnerability versus individual vulnerability. We have to promote the healing. We can't be in attack modes. We can't be, that's where true collaboration comes in. And it's heart-centered that why don't we have, it's interesting to see the youth of Spokane actually, you know, coming out of Gonzaga and promoting humanizing Spokane. And it's like, that's where we need to be moving the needle, because that will touch the powers to be. It's not attack mode, you know, it's really a different form of collaboration. And it's harder for me, as I've been around this community for 36 years, I have to welcome the new energy happening and go, oh, how do I help mold it? Because it is listening to the community and what the needs are. You know, it's simple as one, it just hit me today. It's like, why don't we, it's like for humanizing Spokane, for every building permit for a house, like maybe over $150,000, you know, there should be an equal building permit for a low income house or an apartment. That's equity. That is housing equity in general. And it's like, we can take that equity, you know, and frame and go larger. And it's like, that's what this is about. And so it's a little, you know, and so I think it's pretty healthy and moving the conversation, because even the COC board, the membership there, beautiful members, a lot of effort, administrative efforts and such. That's this angle, but this is streetwide angle, because there was homeless people that actually were in the meetings from their camera phone, from their camps, giving input. And so I'm going to really respect that energy that they took to be a part of the solution. And, so we can still keep polishing. That's what this is all about. But that's, we have to start somewhere. We have to move this. So.
Thank you, Dale. Something that I want to say, and then Ken has something to say. When I was speaking about community court, I wasn't attacking. It was not my intent to attack community court. Community court does a lot of really wonderful things, but community court has been affected by COVID and has been affected by the construction of the library and having to move. And it has thrown up some barriers. That situation has thrown up some barriers for people to access community court. And that's what I was trying to convey. And I also want to say that we have been working with the Northwest Justice Project, and we met with a lawyer from the Northwest Justice Project on Tuesday this week with 2 homeless individuals who had been arrested, cited by the police. I don't know if they were actually taken to jail. I don't think that happened for one of them. It may have happened for the other one, who had 3 citations for the one incident. But that lawyer from Northwest Justice Project was advising us on what to do and what steps to take, and was the one who advised us to call community court, to call your office, to ensure that a bench warrant was not issued for his arrest.
Now, Francis, I appreciate you are the public defender in community court, and I appreciate your advocacy on behalf of your clients, and I hear praise for your efforts. And the community court is not the target. The target of this document, neither are the enforcement people. They're doing their jobs under a system of laws that has been established, that I agree, the criminalization, and it's a systemic set of laws aimed at behaviors exhibited by homeless men and women that is the problem. I can't find a bad actor, though there's defensiveness at every step of, like, my documentation and the efforts here. It's why we're going around the horn here in this group. Here's where the rubber hits the road. The people helping in our agencies, in our community courts, in advocacy groups, homeless men and women out on the street. And it's targeted at those laws, and we're angling to lift up best practices and establish practices like the recommended by the CDC to provide basic hygienic, like lavatories, porta johns, and hand washing stations and garbage removal, instead of criminalizing urinating and defecating and criminalizing trash and litter and making it a health issue, to put the onus back on and to center it on serving men and women who in our housing market really don't have, although there's getting them into these assessments and the getting them tracked on this moving towards housing that's not available. And there are over 1,000 men and women. By our pit count, there are 541. That's a real undercount. There are over 1,000 men and women unsheltered and camped, and nowhere near enough indoor options available, and to criminalize them. And you're right, and I thank you. The information that no warrants have been issued, I'm very keen to get that information, because there was a man we're working with whose camp was removed and thrown away, much of his belongings thrown away, who was told by a SNAP person that if he did not show up, they will issue a warrant for his arrest. And I'm not sure where that information comes from, but the sense is that's still happening. And I'd like to get that information and have it. And we'll have it part of our addendum and adjust our statements, because we need to found what we're saying, not in fiction, not in hearsay, but in documentable first primary source material, so that, because we need to speak the truth, and telling the truth and sharing the truth will give us the foundation to make the changes we want. And these asks at the end, the whereas section, is the guts of what we hope to achieve. And it's simple, human, decent actions. And I want your buy-in, because you are committed to advocacy, and I appreciate that, Francis. And so is most of the people doing the enforcement, and so are many of the people doing all of the jobs that bring us together to share information. I thank you.
Thank you, Ken, and I appreciate you and Joanne's work on this, and we are all in this together, like the other speaker said. We're all going to get to where we want to be if we all work together. This is what Homeless Coalition has always been about: collaboration and everything. And but this document does not speak to decriminalizing some of the problems, some of these charges that we are talking about. If the goal is to get to that place where being homeless is viewed as an health crisis and not a criminal action, then this document should speak to that, and we should speak to that. But I want to say, I put my email in the chat. If anybody tells you, I got a warrant in community court, send me an email, and I will deal with it. And I will see why the person got a warrant and give you a reason why the person got it. There are some people that got a warrant in special circumstances because they're a danger to themselves and a danger to others, because they refuse to take care of a gangrenous leg, where the leg has to be cut off because of a mental health situation. We are trying to get them safely into a public health situation so as not to cause a bigger problem to the community. Those type of people, the warrant is not meant to lock them up. The warrant is meant to get them to the hospital. And immediately we transfer them to the hospital. In fact, they cannot be cleared for jail. We issue the warrant so that they can go to the hospital and care for themselves. Those people, I don't have an excuse for, because I'm trying my best in my own conscience. I made a vow to myself 7 years ago that nobody would die on my watch. I want to be sure that I've done everything to make sure that people are safe. Okay, so that's one of the dynamics. Sometimes we issue warrant, the prosecutor have to argue a lot to get that, to show the pattern. And we have a dialogue with the administration that it will not be an enforcement first, that they will let Bob and Heather and Tammy at SNAP and Frontier be able to do their work first before they even give people the ticket. And we have people that for more than 3 months, they've been trying to get them to move to a shelter or to move to anything. They refuse to give them a ticket and do all of that. We're trying that. We're trying that advocacy part, where we get the city to agree you will not give people a ticket until the social workers have been able to help them get into Spada. There is somebody that is on the street right now that the officers issue a ticket that we have dismissed the ticket because Bob is working with them. If Bob or Tammy is working with someone, there will not be a ticket. But
the individual that you're talking about actually is a member of our action group, and he is one of the people that was meeting with the Northwest Justice Project with us on Tuesday. And his account of what happened to him is very, very different than what the agencies and police have been
tossing about.
Of course, it's going to be different. Of course, nobody likes enforcement. Nobody is happy to work for enforcement. Of course, it's going to be different. No infection. And one thing you have to know though is Northwest Justice Project does not take this type of action. Okay, yeah, they may try to give counsel or anything, they don't take partisan, they don't start a cause, they are not set up to do this type of course of action on behalf of people. It's Columbia Legal Services that do that, and they are not in Spokane, but they do have outreach into, we are trying to get them to Spokane to come and do this type of work. Northwest Justice Project cannot take an action on behalf of a group. They are bound.
Yeah, but there's other actions have to do with civil rights and human rights that the Northwest Justice Project people are looking into.
Okay, but I get you, but I want us to, like I said, I want us to be able to work together to help people, even while we are doing the advocacy. I don't want people to die on the street because we are trying to use them as an example of what is wrong. No, that is not.
He wasn't at risk of dying on the street.
It is not what we should be doing. We should work together to ameliorate situation, even while we do the advocacy. Let's continue to push for the advocacy to decriminalize some of these charges. But when people need help, let's get them the help. Do not let them suffer because we're trying to do the advocacy. That's just and I get Sherry's point, yes, there is need for more empathy. And we have been trying to get the mechanism of our government to see that, so there is need for empathy. Let's make the issue. The city council, let's make the issue with the city council that we need more empathy. We need people to empathize with the difficulties people have to do. I get it. Most of our providers are only available by phone. This is why we got the state OPD to provide laptop for us that we can put at every transitional shelter so that people can handle their cases from there. They can talk to their mental health providers from the transitional shelter so that all those barriers can come down. People need help.
So part of the statement is that we're asking for immediate action, not long-term action, which is what changing laws would entail, is long-term. This is for immediate action. And we do mention laws and policies and procedures that need to be changed further up, higher up in the document, number 6 through 10 plus. But what we're asking for are things that the city can do outside of laws and policies that exist,
and stop doing
those
in the way of removing life-saving gear from. In the circumstance we're talking about, a man who there was no life-threatening condition, and that's his problem. There's no life-threatening position whatsoever. Their problem, and their life-saving gear was removed and discarded, and that happens all too often, and it's by people who are responding to pressures and operating within laws that the pressures need to be ameliorated in favor of a heart-centered, compassion-centered approach, and the laws do need to be changed. And I agree, if you're criminalizing homeless behaviors associated with homelessness, we need to change those laws, and that's the problem. It's not the people enforcing it. They're not the bad guy. They're doing a job. Police shouldn't be doing that job. That's not, police protect us, and we don't need protection from homeless men and women encamped. We need to help them survive until we can have better solutions like housing or shelter that's effective.
As far as people being arrested and taken away to jail, that happened at February 26th.
And the 26th, yeah.
Where someone who was being swept and his stuff had been dumped into the dump truck while he was down the block showed up, and he was told that he could go into the dump truck to get his things and take them out. And in the middle of that process, he was arrested and taken away in handcuffs to jail. So I'm not sure why those incidents aren't coming to community court and coming to you for you to see, but it is happening.
Jody, sometimes people can elect, you don't have to be in community court if you don't want to. So people can elect not to be in community court if they so desire. It's only people that really need the help that are in community court. You can choose to say, I don't want to be in community court, and your cases will not be referred to community court. Even if it's referred to community court, it will be transferred to the other court.
Because
Yes, go ahead, Ken.
They plead not guilty, or they plead guilty.
No, there's no plea. There's no plea at any of this. You're not pleading guilty. Even if you're in community court, you're not pleading guilty.
What do you sign to get yourself into community court? Can you plead not guilty?
Regardless, your pretrial release condition, whether in community court or in everywhere, makes some mandate on you. Okay, some of it is the municipal court has been able to get a bed at HOC that they're going to probably the court does have the power to say, look, we're concerned about safety issue on this one. You're going to go to a bed. They got the funding to have a bed at HOC now for men. They are looking at a contract for women that people can be safe. If there is a safety concern, and the articulation of safety doesn't really come only from the defendant himself. So
at what
a
point
neighbor can report
not guilty? At what point can they plead not guilty?
You can everybody plead not guilty. Okay, everybody, whether in community court or elsewhere, you plead not guilty, and you choose where you want to go. If you don't want to be in community court, you don't have to be. If you're a sex offender, you cannot be in community court, for instance. Okay. So they exclude that automatically. You cannot be. And even if they file against you and they say you should show up in community court, you can come to community court and say, I don't want to be in community court. It is optional. It's not by force. So there is a lot of people that you see that tells you, I was given a ticket to go to community court. But in actual fact, their case may not be in community court. Because either they are sex offenders, or either in the past they have chosen not to be in community court, or they have shown a predilection for not amenable to any of the programs in community court. And they don't want to be in community court. Why force a program on people that they don't want? So that is why people have the option to elect not to be in community court. It is written into the policies and procedure of community court.
Is that right up front, or is that at
yes, it's up front.
At any point during community court, they can do that?
No, not at any point. At the point where you came in, at the first time when you came in, you can't choose. You can't say, I want treatment. So, Ken, if you come in and you said, I want treatment, and I want community court, and then you sign an agreement that you're going to follow some agreement, just because all of a sudden you don't want to go to treatment, and you say, I don't want community court anymore. You can't choose, you can't eat your cake and have it.
You've already waived your rights.
If you choose to be in community court,
you've already waived your rights.
Sign the SOC. You are not waiving rights. You are not pleading guilty, but you sign an agreement that you're going to follow through with your treatment.
With
and now,
the penalty if you fail to.
If you fail the penalties is in fact most of the time, even though the sentence is 90 days in jail, most of the time in your agreement, you get convicted and you walk. There's no sentencing in community court. No. Most of the time is 4 weeks. It's 4 weeks of showing up for court. And when you don't show up for court, the case even get dismissed if you stay out of trouble. Right. So just as you need to come and sit down in community court and see things for yourself. Don't let people tell you things that the stories that you are hearing are not always what is in the reports. So this is what I found exasperating between what you tell, what you say at coalition, and what actually happened on the field. Sometimes
Tuesday.
Yeah,
I feel like when you say things like that, Francis, I feel like you're accusing me of lying about things.
I'm not accusing you of lying. If I'm accusing you of anything, I'm accusing you of being. I've been in your situation where people tell me things that I believe.
that I have been to community court. I've witnessed these things happening.
What
So
did you
can
witness?
can a lot of this conversation happen potentially in another space? I mean, it really, because it's taken away from this energy. And I just really want to honor, you know, I mean, I think it's a healthy conversation to educate and understand. Yet, you know, we definitely have, I think, you know, this what we have in front of us. I mean, it seems like a lot, you know, really, honestly, and I think there's a response to that. And it's yet, you know, these basic 6 steps or asks back here are nothing that has to, you know, it might make community court efforts easier. I'm thinking it could, because it could, you know, give the community grace to, you know, the homeless person grace to put something inside a locker, or, you know, community court would know where they would be located, you know. And so I think that's some of the things that, you know, really, you know, how can we polish that more within the community? That's what I'm looking forward to. And pushing the elected officials, you know, that's where our system is really, you know, we're struggling here a little bit to understand, yet in asking ideas, because I think how do we go about gathering ideas to make education healthier, to get basic human rights to individuals that are homeless, you know, from access to medications to, you know, so they can witness collaboration. My role here is not an easy role, you guys. I mean, for homeless people, because our continuum of care has 4 spots for lived experience, okay? And I'm grateful I know all the acronyms. I'm grateful I've been part of the process, because at some point my journey ends here, and who's going to be able to take the speed and understand and communicate to the elected officials are powerful. And I have a hard time with my voice, and we're having a hard time with our voices. But that's where I'm recommending, as we come out of COVID even, how do we socially heal? And so that's where the faith-based organizations, I see the scatteredness, and it's like, let's get the Homeless Coalition in. And that's where there's so much more energy over here, widespread in the community, than the COC funded programs. And we need to sort of wrap it in, just like David Lewis was here from the city. How do we do this healthier? I think this is a step towards health. And it's, you know, and so I just, and I took over the room for Barry, by the way. So my goal is hopefully we can be done by noon. So anyway, in conversation.
Joe, go ahead. Joe wanted to say something. Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you know, I've learned tons participating, and as a concerned citizen, and as a IT background kind of guy that's, you know, that works for a company that's really involved in community investment, and I, you know, feel totally blessed to be a part of this. And I'm hearing lots from, you know, activist side of the community that's so powerful, and then I hear the government, you know, side, and the, you know, the way Francis put it, the fact and the fiction, and you know, as we all know, the officials that are part of government that are front facing are typically chosen by the community, by the people, by us. And if we don't do, my personal opinion is, if we don't do a good enough job to educate the whole community, the people that are voting, to this, to the challenges and the situations at hand. And most people are probably like me. If I can't see it on a graphical, if I can't see it, you know, this is what we've got, this is where we're headed, this is our goal, this is, you know, this is what we need, this is what we need from you, we need funding. And you know, to what Francis was saying, I'm just trying to clarify, if the sit-lie is on the books and that has to be enforced, I don't think as a community, as people, we can expect the enforcement community to do something outside of what is legislated. And I have empathy for the You know, when I'm driving around, I see, you know, and I appreciate everything everybody's doing. I don't think there's enough hours in the folks that are involved with doing these services to extend more financially, physically, without, you know, a collapse in the system. So if we don't get together and we don't educate the community, if we don't get funding from them, if we don't get backing from them, if we don't change the leadership that we don't feel is representing us, we're wasting our time. It's just that easy. And to, you know, I think we have an incredible opportunity right now. Gonzaga is, you know, going crazy, you know, in the sports world. And these young kids that are going to school there that have this great faith and this, you know, community-minded belief that want to help out, and they come to Spokane and they see this beautiful, incredible city and this, you know, the sports community and the arts and everything that we have, and they want to, you know, continue to make that thrive and to be something that other people can enjoy and come and share. And if we need to use their energy to get it focused on the things that we can change and set goals to do that. That's just my opinion. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. I think I gotta go because I have a racial equity committee meeting with the Spokane County Law and Justice Council. But I want us, the 6 point is an advocacy tool that we can use to change mind. Okay, that's 6 points. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against those 6 points. Okay. But I want, when we advocate for it, let's advocate for it based on factual situation of people with real life stories, not that, oh, this person could not do this, therefore he could not do this. When in actual fact, those programs are available and are open if you want it. And people, you know, and that's why those of us that do cases, that do class action lawsuit, that's why I said Northwest Justice Project does not do class action lawsuit. So if we are going to there, we're going to the wrong organization, for instance. They don't do class action lawsuit. By law, the state forbids them when they were taking the funding. I'm one of those people that are trying to change that law so that they will be able to do class action lawsuit. But advocacy that we need is an advocacy based on these 6 points. What we need to do is to present it to the city council and said we need to have a public safety hearing on these 6 points and bring out the people with stories that you have, and let the people on the other side bring out their stories, and then it will lead to an action by the city council or by the mayor's office that will concretize these points, that will make this into a policy that no enforcement unless you follow this paradigm. That is the homeless coalition that I used to be co-chair. That's what we do. We advocate based on those points and make those points to the elected officials.
Francis, thank you.
Without attacking person, without attacking organizations or throwing stones at anyone. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying you're doing that.
And so because here's an opportunity as we get creative right here. I'm thinking because this is bringing this energy will hit them, the 6 points. Yet, you know, some of that we've been asking, you know, regional health or whoever in the community. And I bring up regional health just because of, you know, they have a structure in place for medications and such, but you know, for the lockers, maybe a private entity in our community can come forward and fill that gap. Maybe that we can fill those gaps singly by private entities, not by government, because where's the money coming from? We've talked about that. So let's keep that in the paradigm of going, hey, how can we get creative to, you know, get the showers or the porta potties? Could there be more mobile porta potties in our community? That can we mark the camps differently? Okay, can we have, you know, metal stands that the home, you know, people can be proud and say, hey, I like a green tag, you know, it's like I'm in the system, I'm being helped, please respect that to, you know, this person. So we can identify, you know, it's like let's, you know, so those are things I think that we want to say to professional, the politicians yet. Where can we access different funds within our community, grants to feed into the system?
And I'll bet you're going to be able to get the businesses downtown to help support a porta potty or some things that keep people from, being in the corner of their entryway or, on the side of their building or in their back loading dock. It's like, come on, this.
Yeah, let's talk to people that deals with mental health among the coalition. Let's the representative from Frontier, because we have whether we can be in denial and said, oh, no homeless person has a mental health problem. No, we will be fooling ourselves. Let's talk about Frontier. What can you do for us with people that are struggling with mental health?
Yeah.
What is the plan for the homeless folks with mental health? What is the plan that you have for us when we have people like this that cannot take care of themselves and that are constantly in crisis all the time? What can you do to help us? What facilities can you provide for us so that they don't keep losing all their stuff? Do you know how many times I've tried to get ID for people in community court? More than 20 times. Because every time they get arrested, we lose that ID. We have to start all over again. Yeah. So this is not something that we are coming to without knowledge. There are organizations in our state, in our county, that receive funds for this purpose. They need to be at the table. They need to be able to provide the fund and the resources for us to be able to do this. This is a conversation, but it has to start somewhere, and it has to be with a willingness to say, look, we are going to approach this with fact and with data. This is what happened. This is a documented video of people going through this experience, and this is not pleasant. We don't want this in our community. What can we do?
Help us, if you will, Francis. We're going to send this directly to you. To help us to make sure where there are inaccuracies, point those out so we can make sure we are not moving forward.
This is my recommendation, Ken. Yeah. Take out the 6 points, okay? If you want to decriminalize, if you want the city council to pass a law, all those whereas, you can put them in it and say decriminalize, sit and lie. But if you want those 6 points, put the 6 points in a coalition, homeless coalition letter, and said, this is a consensus document that we want. Don't mix the enforcement and the desires. Yes, with what you are trying to do, because to build a big tent, you don't ostracize the people that you need to be at the table. You need women's art, for instance, to be at the table. But when
I think there's been a misunderstanding about what this statement is. We're not asking for the approval of the coalition. I'm not
saying you should ask for the approval of the coalition.
From everyone in the coalition about the statement. We were presenting this statement as a final statement just to show you what the action group had come up with, not to get approval from everyone in the coalition.
I'm not asking you to get approval. No. You asked me for my input. I'm saying this is my suggestion. Take out the 6 points. That's what you want, right? Those 6 points is what you want accomplished. Okay? Take out the 6 points, outline it, and said a group within homeless coalition, or whatever you want to call it, give it a name, that this is one goal that we want to achieve in the next 6 months. We're going to send a letter to the mayor's office, to the human services department, to the city council, and say these 6 points, we want an action on it. We want an hearing. There is a public safety committee meeting of the city council every week. Okay. Put that 6 points, okay? Send it to the president of the city council and said, you want this to be on the agenda. And you, Joan, and you get some other people there to appear and argue for these 6 points. And with fact and figure and data, how many people have lost their properties? you have the data. People that have lost their property because of this. And this is what you want accomplished because of this. It will kickstart an airing where the Human Services Department and the Spokane Police Department would have to respond to your input and said, okay, this is what we are doing. And then they will look at fashioning a policy that will address those 6 points. The advocacy, I'm trying to suggest an advocacy method. If we want to take another advocacy where we just, fight them to stand still, we can also do that. But if we really want to achieve something concrete in the next 6 months, because these people need the help that we're going to give, then let's approach it that way. Okay?
Will you participate in that effort that you're describing?
Of course.
Let's do that. And let's talk more about how to make sure that the other statements involved, that we know the truth and that we're speaking the truth.